My name is Marvin Lewis Charles. When I was 6 months old, I was taken from my mother. She was a teenager at the time. This would be the start of a journey fraught with loss. Who was I? Where did I come from? No one would have any answers for me. As a child, the world as I knew it completely turned upside down. The mother who raised me died suddenly. She had adopted me earlier than I could remember. She was buried on the very day of my birthday, and nobody acknowledged it was the day I was turning 10 years old. Uncle EJ, a stern and cold man, was the one to reveal to me that my parents were not my real parents. No one knew who or where my real mother was. He told me that I officially belonged to the state and was to live with him. I only heard rules, and if I failed to obey them, he brought stern consequences. One day, he took me into the kitchen. He held my hand over the hot stove and told me, "This will teach you not to steal." I was terrorized with fear. Another time, he took me out and crushed bricks into pieces. He spread them out on the ground and told me to kneel on them. Then he put stones in my hand and told me to hold them up or he would whip me. During that time, I was constantly corrected and trained to behave. I felt like a puppet. Eventually, I could take it no longer, and one day I ran outside with no intentions of ever returning. Over the next several years, I was raised up and mentored by men involved in the prostitution industry and trained to run my own ring. Hungry for a father figure, these men who I looked up to filled that need in my life. After serving months in prison, I locked myself in a hotel for days and went through hundreds of dollars worth of drugs. I was living a miserable day-to-day existence. I fathered several children with different women. All of my kids were taken from my custody. When I watched Child Protection Services drive my 7th child from me, that's when I hit the depths of my depravity. The thought of my children growing up just like I grew up, without my presence, weighed heavily on my heart. God opened my eyes and pressed it upon me to turn my life around. Little did I know at the time, God heard my cry and had much more in store for me.
Dear Marvin, you are my firstborn son. I have written this letter in an attempt to reach out to you through a private investigator. I gave birth to you when I was 14 years old. When you were only 6 months, the world crashed around us as you were taken from me and later placed for adoption. I only have one baby picture of you, one taken right before I lost you. I have treasured this picture dearly. Over the years, I have prayed diligently. I asked God to not let me leave this earth without seeing you again. I hope to eventually see and meet you. I love you, my son. I always have.
After proving I was a changed man, I was finally reunited with my children. And on that same day I picked up my kids. Through God's grace, I was on my way to be reunited with my real mother after 43 years. In 1 year's time, God made me a husband, a father, and a son. I've been waiting on that hug my whole life. I never thought it would be possible to meet my mother. When it happened, I was elated. My mother telling me that she loved me. I didn't think that was possible, to have my mother kiss me, have my mother hold me, have my mother tell me she loves me. I only lived 1 mile away from her. Can you imagine that? Just 1 mile away from the person who gave me life. How many times have we crossed paths with one another and not even known it? I asked my mother about my father, and she said, I haven't talked to him in 40 years. And so she did her homework and called him. So I found my father. I jumped on a plane and flew to Oakland, where he was living. My mother jumped on a plane and went to visit him. And I don't know what happened, right? All I know is he asked her to marry her, and she said yes. It reminded me of this prayer that I prayed. Help me put my family back together again. I felt like because of what I went through, that I could help men connect to their children. My wife, Jeanette, and I sat down. So here was an opportunity to start an organization that would help fathers be reunited to their children. Divine Alternatives for Dads Services. And we could use the acronym DADS, D-A-D-S. 24 million children will go to bed tonight without having a father in their home. You pull a father out of the home, the family doesn't die, but it opens it up for infection. Fatherlessness costs this country $100 billion a year. We could do something about it. The services that we provide are parenting plans, child support management. We have support groups where men can come together and spend time and share. We have businessmen and men coming out of prison, sitting in the same room, and the relationships that have taken place have been phenomenal. Fathers are reconnected with their children, reconnected with their families. I have seen 3,500 men walk through our doors, and over 8,000 children have been reconnected back to their fathers and families. My desire is to see something like this in every urban center in this country. I was 43 years old when I met my father and mother, and that yearning didn't go anywhere, where this man might have had no hope at all. And today, not only does he have hope, but that he has a purpose to be there for that child, to be that for their families.